Smile, please. Click. You should be on the cover of a family magazine. So perfect. I fake a smile and walk past the photographer. To the outside world, we have it all. A big house, cars, money, and my parents' perfect marriage. But what goes on inside the house is another story. Hi, I'm Fatima from Afghanistan, and this is how I made my jerk dad regret having me as a daughter. But before I continue, click like and subscribe. Mom and Dad were high school sweethearts, but their parents were dead set against the match from the start. Dad took a stand and got married to her anyway, cutting off all ties with his family. Mom was so blindly in love with him after this because she thought he was her real-life Romeo. But sadly, it didn't last. Dad was pretty mean with me and my elder sister Sasha when we were growing up. Once, I ran up to him excitedly to show him my report card full of A's. He tossed it aside without even looking at it.
So what? Anyone can study and get good grades. It doesn't make you special.
He never let me participate in any math international competition, saying,
"You can't leave the country. Girls should be raised to be good wives. Period."
Once, the principal called my parents and told them I should be transferred to another school for gifted students. Dad lost his mind and started yelling at the principal.
"You all feminist women, trying to poison our daughters."
As soon as we hit our teens, Dad made our lives a living hell. Suddenly, we weren't allowed to do anything or go anywhere on our own. Soon, he started criticizing the clothes we wore and said they were too revealing. Once, we were getting ready to go to a wedding. When our dad came to our room to see if we were dressed properly, he took one look at us and lost it.
"Go, wash your face. You look so ugly."
We were angry, but we did as he said. When we reached the wedding, though, once again, he became the doting father. What a hypocrite! Men and women are separated in these weddings, so I told Sasha that we could put our makeup on again and enjoy our night. And so we did. My brother didn't have these problems. He was Dad's little pet. God, he even got a cell phone at 8. Dad kept telling him he was the man of the house, and he had to keep us women in check. It seemed like Dad was getting more paranoid by the day. He shifted our computer in the lounge so he could see what we were doing. He threatened to kick us out of the house if we even mentioned having social media accounts. One day, when Dad wasn't home, I decided to set up a Facebook account. I wanted to join all the math groups on Facebook, but as soon as Dad entered, my stupid brother ratted me out. Dad went from normal to the Hulk in less than 5 seconds.
"How dare you? I told you to never make a Facebook account. Are you that desperate to find a boyfriend? No one will want you anyway because you're ugly."
Dad, I'm old enough to have a Facebook account. Dad got mad and disconnected the Wi-Fi. I tried talking to Mom about it, but it was pointless. She never saw any fault with anything he did. He's your father. He knows what's best for you. The next thing we knew, he pulled us out of school and enrolled us in an all-girls institution. I couldn't believe it. This is so unfair. All my friends are here. You can't do this.
I can. And I have. If you want to live under my roof, you will do as I say.
I couldn't let him get away with it. If he wanted to play hardball, then I'd learn from the best. He invited his friends over for dinner a week later, and it was the perfect opportunity to get a little revenge. When Sasha and I came down to greet the guests, Dad almost choked on his tea.
"What are you wearing?"
"You said we should dress to impress your rich friends." Dad shot Mom an angry stare, and she hurriedly dragged us out of the room. Strike one, and Dad was livid. For our stunt, he cut off our allowance and refused to give either of us any money. It was worth it. And it was okay because I was one of the best students in the class and kids were always asking me to tutor them. I lied to Dad and said my math teacher was forcing me to take extra classes because I was really dumb. And he easily bought it. So I started tutoring a bunch of kids after hours in school. And I was making good money. A month went by and one afternoon at school, right in the middle of a lesson, the door suddenly burst open. I turned in horror to see it was Dad, looking mad as a raging bull.
"You take me for a fool, girl? Pack your things this minute."
I felt humiliated in front of my classmates, and I didn't want to make things worse, so I left with him. When we got home, he screamed at me some more and insisted I give him all the money I'd made tutoring, but I refused.
"Fine, but make sure it lasts, because there's no way you'll be making any more."
Dad kept a strict eye on me after that to make sure I got home right after school. At first, I thought there was no way I could teach anymore, but then I came up with a brilliant idea. Dad was always away hanging out with his friends in the evenings, so I decided to sneak students into my basement. I told Sasha all about my plan, and it was her job to make sure Mom and my brother wouldn't find out, and I was back in business. A few weeks later, while I was teaching, the door suddenly opened, and my brother was standing there. Sasha was right behind him, crying and saying that she was really sorry. My brother took one look around the room and said, "Just wait till Dad gets home. You'll be in so much trouble." I ran after him and grabbed him by the shoulders. "Listen here, you little idiot. What will it take to keep your mouth shut?" He thought about it for a few moments and then told me I had to give him half of whatever I was making. As if I was going to tell him how much that actually was. I agreed to it, and he kept his mouth shut. But I was always a little afraid he'd rat me out. A few days later, when the kids were entering the basement, I saw a boy staring at me. He was a few years older than me. He stepped closer and was about to say something when my brother jumped out from behind him and said, "Are you lost, kid? Need any help?" He was so annoying. The boy looked embarrassed and left. That night, I knew a new family moved in next door, and I was excited to have new neighbors. That evening, they came over to introduce themselves. With them was the boy I'd seen earlier. He was their son. Mom and Dad were so warm and welcoming with the neighbors. I smiled at how nice it felt to have a normal moment, but it didn't last. The moment the neighbors were out the door, Dad was at my throat again.
I saw the way you were looking at him. We know nothing about them. He could be a criminal.
The next thing I knew, Dad was boarding up the windows in my room. He really was a lunatic. After that, things just kept getting worse. I'd saved up enough money to buy myself a phone, and I was so excited the day I got it. I snuck into my closet and took it out of the box and started browsing and downloading apps. I was finally able to access my Facebook account too. My excitement was short-lived though, because I came across a page that made my heart stop. Dad was on Facebook, and his profile was just pictures of him with strange women. The things on his page and his friends list made me cringe. I had no idea he was such a cheater. What would Mom say? I quickly ran to Sasha's room to show her what I'd found. She scrolled through the pages and sank down on the bed in disbelief.
He wasn't trying to keep us safe from the cruel world. He was only trying to save himself from being exposed and make sure we never found out the truth about him.
It's disgusting. Come on, we have to tell Mom. We ran to Mom's room where she was busy fixing her hair in front of the mirror. "Mom, I need you to look at something."
"I don't have time. Your dad will be here to pick me up soon."
"But Mom, it's about Dad." She looked at the phone and then back at us. I was expecting her to be angry with him, but instead, she started yelling at us.
"How dare you talk about your dad like this, after everything he's done for you?"
And with that, she stormed out of the room. We were in shock. Was she really that stupid? Or just in denial? The next morning, when Sasha and I reached school, her friend came up to her and said, "Sash, isn't this your dad?" I wanted the ground to swallow me up. Dad was trying to befriend girls from my school? The man was disgusting.
It must be a fake account.
Sasha walked quickly away to her class. Mom was still in denial. It was so annoying to see her make his favorite dishes every day and do his laundry. I just need to get her to open her eyes somehow. When Dad left on another overnight trip, we tried to talk to Mom again. We showed her Dad's Facebook page along with his friend requests to the girls at my school. But her reply shocked us. "You girls are ungrateful. Making a fake account just to get me to agree with you? You should be ashamed." "Mom, you've got to be kidding. You can't still think he's innocent." We were trying to convince her when we saw a shadow block the doorway. The blood drained from my face. Dad was standing right behind us. You're back early, honey." Dad looked like he was gonna erupt. He walked up to me and wrenched my phone out of my hand.
"You wretched creatures, openly going against me, feeding lies to my wife? And where did you get this phone?"
I stared at him silently, and my brother popped up behind him. "She teaches kids in your basement, Dad." Dad let out an angry snarl and smashed my phone against the wall. After that, Sasha and I were grounded and weren't allowed to leave our rooms. Then a few days later, my mom came in holding a fancy dress. "Get dressed, Sasha, and come downstairs." We looked at each other without moving.
"Now."
There were a lot of people in our living room.
"Ah, there's my sunshine. Come, sit with me."
I felt like throwing up. My heart was pounding, and all eyes followed Sasha as she walked across the room. I recognized the guy next to Dad as his business partner, but I had no idea who everyone else was.
Ron has always been interested in marrying you to his son.
What? She was only 18. Sasha tried to get up, but Dad grabbed her hand and kept her from doing so. I was boiling inside. I wanted to tell them to get lost, but I knew that wouldn't end well. Mom and Dad were on their best behavior, and you'd think there couldn't be more loving parents in the world. It was an Oscar-worthy performance. After they left, Sasha stormed into my parents' room. How could you even think about marrying me off? And to that nincompoop? His family is really rich. He's a high school dropout. I plan on going to college, and I want a career. You can't do this to me. Watch me. I stood rooted in the corner. I couldn't let this happen. I had to do something to save my sister from this monster, our dad. That night, when I went to throw out the trash, the boy next door was in his yard. He smiled when he saw me. I walked straight to the trash cans, too afraid that Dad would see me. When I was walking back, I saw something on the fence that wasn't there before. I picked it up and ran up to my room. Over the next few days, he started leaving little swans for me to find. It was the sweetest thing. No matter how horrible my day had been, the swans would make me smile. Maybe one day I'd be able to talk to him. As the day of the wedding got closer, tensions rose higher. Dad got crazier, Sasha got angrier, and Mom just went about being a robot as usual. The day of the wedding arrived, and Dad was running around frantically, making sure everything was perfect. I walked into Sasha's room and gave her a tight hug. Listen to me carefully. I have a plan. The guests had arrived, and the groom and his family took their places. I knew everything was going according to plan when Mom came running in.
Why are you acting like a fool?
Sasha.
What happened to Sasha?
She's gone. She's run away.
What?
The groom and his family were livid. Ron grabbed my dad by the collar.
We've never been this humiliated in our life. You will pay for this. Please, Ron, we can work this out.
As I ran up to my room, I saw not one, but 8 swans, and my heart swelled. I didn't know how I'd ever thank the boy next door for helping me with my plan. I could hear Dad trashing the house downstairs. I needed to make Sasha run away on the wedding day, so Dad would be too ashamed to look for her and get her back. Just then, the door to my room opened. "Pack your things now. We're leaving." "What do you mean, leaving?" "You two have destroyed his reputation. Dad's lost his business partner, and you're asking why we're leaving?" With that, he slammed the door and left. Dad followed every move of mine like a hawk. I wasn't allowed to go to school on my own either. One day when I came back from school, Mom was sitting in the lounge, but she looked different. Dad walked in and sat on the couch.
Make me a cup of tea.
Mom didn't move.
Didn't you hear me? Make me a cup of tea.
I didn't know what was happening, but I was loving it. "Get out of my house, you cheater." Dad was shocked. That's when I saw his phone in her hand. All this time, I thought the girls were lying. But this? Get out. Get out. Now. I thought Mom was going to pop a vein. I secretly hoped she'd kick my brother out too, but you can't get everything you want in life. Dad tried to fight back and feed her lies as usual, but she wasn't listening this time. When he realized there was no way out, he yelled,
"If I didn't need your money, I'd have left you a long time ago. You were always useless. And don't think you're going to get much from these ungrateful kids."
With that, he left, and that was the last I saw of him. Things started to get back on track. I had a life, friends, and a Facebook page. I started up my tutoring gig again, too. I was also able to track down Sasha eventually. I sent her a message on Facebook. I told her how Mom finally woke up and kicked Dad out, and how our brother was finding it difficult to adjust to life where he had to do his own chores. Even though Mom had finally done something brave, I could tell that she was depressed and heartbroken. I asked Sasha to come and see us. She had worked multiple jobs to put herself through college and was about to graduate. I was so happy for her. A few weeks later, the doorbell rang and I ran to the door. I let out a cry of joy when I saw it was Sasha. Mom heard the noise and came running to us too, crying happy tears as she took Sasha in her arms. As she wiped her tears, Sasha turned to me with a smile. "There's someone waiting for you outside." I stepped out onto the porch to see. It was the boy from next door. He was holding a paper swan. I smiled at him and held out my hand where he gently set it. "Let's go for a walk. I'd love to finally get to know you." I turned over in bed and reached for my phone.
Hello? Is this Stephanie?
Yes, do you have any idea what time it is?
Sorry, this is an emergency. See, your uncle has vanished and left you everything.
I hung up immediately. It was obviously a prank call. I didn't even have an uncle. I didn't have any family at all. Me being an orphan is why I was so surprised that a visitor asked for me at the orphanage the next day. I looked over at a tall butler with a stern face.
We need to talk about your inheritance, child.
I followed him into a limo parked outside to meet with a lawyer. And just like that, I went from a poor orphan to a billionaire. Is this an airport?
No, child. This is your new house.
House was a bit of an understatement. The manor had over 400 rooms. I had to use a GPS just to get around the place. Luckily, I wasn't alone. My 5 cousins, my uncle's children, were there to help me out. The food was actually the hardest thing to get used to. At my first meal with the whole family, I was so hungry. I finished an entire bowl of what I thought was soup. When I looked up, everyone stared at me with disgust and horror. Stephanie, that was the fancy food for my kitten. I ran to the bathroom, and when I came back, I heard them talking about me. That's the girl Daddy gave his inheritance to?
She smells like a peasant.
Must be nice. She's the one who pays the bills around here now. I nearly cried. I was so excited to have a family, but to them, I was just a cash cow. They weren't the only ones who treated me differently because of my new money. My phone was blowing up with texts from the orphanage asking if the rumors were true. Ever since people had seen me set foot in the limo, they were spamming me with favors asking for new TVs and video games. Not a single person bothered to ask me what had actually happened. In fact, there was only one person who seemed to care about me at all.
What's wrong, young mistress?
Why did my uncle do this to me?
He did it for you.
He didn't even know me. Miles led me up a dark corridor to a giant room with a huge canopy bed and a large portrait of a woman who looked just like me.
After your mother's disappearance, he couldn't bring himself to see you. You had a hard life. You having all this money is what he would have wanted.
Well, I was happy with my old life.
You never had to leave it, miss.
Just like that, I was on a train back to the orphanage. Despite all the Gucci jackets and Coach bags I now had at home, I decided to just be me. All the other orphans were waiting to greet me. Once I stepped out and they saw that I was wearing poor clothes, the crowd disappeared. Hey, where are you all going?
We thought you were rich.
I'd never felt so alone. I decided I would never trust anyone again, and I'd keep my wealth a secret. Plus, I didn't want anyone to take advantage of me, so hiding my wealth was the best thing to do.
Are you sure you don't want to go to a private high school? I know of a great prep school in London.
No, thank you, Miles. I just want to be normal. Plus, I can visit you every week. Oh no, I'm late for school.
Oh no, you're not.
Okay, so getting dropped off at school on my first day in a helicopter wasn't the best way to hide my money. By second period, everyone was asking me questions. No one was more intrigued than Eric.
Those oil tycoon guys use that helicopter. How do you know them?
Oh, I'm actually the maid. Yeah, the maid.
Well, you must be a great maid for that kind of special treatment.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Wow, pretty and modest.
I blushed so hard. We had every class together, and we hung out nearly every day. Turns out, my uncle and Eric's father were old buddies. One time, I even ran into him at the steps of the mansion.
Stephanie, what a surprise. They let the help use the front door?
Oh, yes, very kind. He pulled me in with a serious face.
Look, you know I like you, but if my father finds out, well, we need to keep us a secret.
He talked about how romantic it was for him to be dating a maid, just like in a love story. Honestly, he was kind of right. It was thrilling to run around and hide, and I was grateful enough that my family played along with my charade. But my secret wasn't going to stay quiet for long. One day, I heard a loud noise while I was sitting in class. I saw Miles with 2 bodyguards. Miles was screaming and calling my name. He said to the teacher that I needed to leave class now. I left feeling really embarrassed, and everyone was staring at me. What are you doing?
Miss, we checked your calendar, and it's about to be that time of the month. And we do believe you are ill-prepared.
What? Let go of me.
We just want to save you from embarrassment.
He handed me a small box and said,
Everything is under control now, ma'am.
What the? When I got back to the classroom, I panicked and told them it was maid work. Oh, it was just an emergency kidnapping drill we do. The time I met Eric for lunch, there were already some other rumors.
Steph, what happened? They say you stole a Da Vinci painting from the mansion. That's why you were arrested in class.
It was just a drill, and that painting isn't even that beautiful.
A drill? For a maid?
Eric wasn't dumb, and that's why I decided to show him my mansion. So, at the front door, I said, "Eric, there's something I need to tell you."
Anything, my love.
I leaned over and kissed him. "We don't have to be a secret anymore." He pushed me away.
Yeah. And while I'm flattered you're obsessed with me, dating a maid isn't really good for my image.
He told me not to mistake my need for money and his desperation for a fling with love. What? Just then, Miles opened the door.
Oh, hello, mistress. Mistress?
The look of shock and surprise on Eric's face was crazy. Yeah, Eric, I don't think you understand. This place is mine. Consider us done. Miles slammed the door right in his shocked face. I was heartbroken and cried for hours. Little did I know, the worst was yet to come. Eric didn't take the rejection so well. Or at all, really.
Hey, babe.
Eric, we're done. Everyone was staring at us. I dragged Eric into the hallway for some privacy.
We should get back together. Or maybe everyone will find out the truth, rich girl.
My mouth dropped open in shock. Was he blackmailing me?
Look, I already told my dad we were dating, and he was thrilled. This is how rich people do their business. Now everyone is happy. I get the perfect wife, and you get the romance you were so desperate for yesterday.
Let me assure you, there was nothing romantic about us being together. I couldn't believe I agreed to it. How stupid. He made us hold hands in public and wear matching clothes. He made me get him an internship at my cousin's firm and everything. After all his criticizing and telling me to smile and not embarrass him, I found out he was dating one of the other girls at school. She texted him, "I love you, babe, call me tonight," while he was at my house. Wait, you're seeing other girls? I thought I was your perfect wife.
For my father, maybe. But you're not being passionate at all.
What if I dated another guy?
Well, I'm the one with the dirt on you. So, I guess you're stuck with me.
The next day at recess, a pretty blonde girl came over and sat next to him after kissing him on the cheek with a, "Hey, you." Then she looked at me like I was a cockroach. Who is she and what is she doing here?
Oh, don't mind her. She's just a loser who's drooling over me all the time. I think she's a bit of a gold digger.
How could he just humiliate me like that in front of everybody? I was so sick of all of this. I went home and ran out into the garden and cried because I felt so hopeless. I stuffed my face with comfort food and sobbed under the little bridge. Soon after, Eric found me there and started yelling at me.
This is all your fault, you know. If you want me to stop dating other girls, maybe you should be a better girlfriend.
He leaned in for a kiss and I was struggling to pull away.
I don't think the lady wants a kiss.
I looked up to see the most handsome guy in the whole world. Without warning, the guy punched Eric right in the jaw.
I said, the lady doesn't seem like she wants a kiss.
Eric charged at him, and before I knew it, the two were tackling each other on the bridge. The stranger managed to push Eric off, but not before Eric had ripped off his shirt sleeve.
You'll be hearing from my lawyer.
Eric fell over a couple of times as he ran away like a scared little mouse. Thank you. Who are you?
I'm just the gardener here. I just get a little defensive when I see pretty girls dealing with jerks.
I hope you're not hurt.
Nah, I'm fine. Ruined my favorite t-shirt, though.
I got so caught up in the moment that I leaned in for a kiss. He pushed me away and I fell into the mud. Then he ran away. Great move, Steph. Now that Eric was running around my family home, I spent most of my time at the orphanage. One day when I was studying hard in my room, I heard a knock on the door. It was Adam. How did you find me?
Oh, I asked Miles for your info, and he graciously told me your address.
Did he tell you anything else?
Only that you seemed like a sweet girl, and I should apologize.
So he didn't know anything about me being rich. I thought I messed everything up. I'm so sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just shy. Here, I brought you something to eat as an apology.
What? This place is expensive.
It's nothing. I would do anything for you to forgive me.
He blushed super hard and looked away. He was so cute and shy. The best part? He thought I was the poor one. I know it's lying, but I just didn't want to take the chance that everything would change. Before our date one evening, Adam came by and said there was something he wanted to tell me.
There's something I haven't been honest about. See, I'm an orphan too. That's why I never talk about my parents. It's very hard for me.
As we sat and talked about it, I felt even closer to him because of this thing we had in common. After a while, he took something out from his coat pocket and said he had a present for me. He asked me to turn around and clasped a beautiful antique necklace around my neck. I gasped when I looked at it. I'd admired it in the window of an antique shop the other day when we were walking by, and he'd just gone and bought it. It must have cost him a fortune. You shouldn't have.
Why not? You deserve pretty things, Steph. And I'll always keep the other half of this pendant with me.
I had a mansion full of pretty things, but nothing was as special as this. Well, I've got something for you too. I offered him a few t-shirts my cousin had helped me pick out the other day. I smiled and said it was to make up for the one that was ruined in the fight.
Steph, these seem like really expensive brands. Where did you get the money to buy them?
Oh, God, I hadn't seen this coming. I shouldn't have shopped from the same store as my spoiled cousins do. I guess there's something I haven't been totally honest about either. I told him all about how I was poor, but now I was actually super rich. I just didn't want people to know and take advantage of me. I just wanted to be me. Adam looked betrayed. He just looked at me and said,
"And you thought I'd take advantage of you?"
He seemed really hurt. Well, maybe.
I thought you knew I loved you.
Adam got up and said,
"Please, just take care of yourself. I don't think you should contact me anymore."
And he left, just like that. I was devastated. I cried all night and decided to go back to the mansion and mourn my relationship luxuriously. Miles insisted it would be better that way. Miles had also had some devastating news that was going to bring my pain to a new level. I have to get married?
It was in the legal documents. I'm surprised you missed them.
But I just broke up with Adam.
Well, better now before you needed to.
What's that supposed to mean? Miles explained how, as a rich person, marriage was not about love. My cousins were already making plans to break Adam and I up. He wasn't husband material. In fact, my suitor was planning to arrive today. When do I have to get married? Suddenly, I heard Adam's broken voice.
I should have known. I'm quitting, Miles.
I looked up to see Adam crying. He'd overheard what I'd said, but he didn't understand the whole thing. I ran after him as he dashed out of the room. I begged him to wait, but he said,
"No, Steph. We aren't meant to be with each other. I should have known. I'm not good enough for you. Have a great life."
As he turned to leave, he threw something on the floor. It was the other half of my necklace. He just ran away, and I couldn't stop crying my heart out. Just then, Eric appeared and handed me a tissue.
"Miss me, babe?"
I just glared at him.
That's why I don't interact with commoners. They're brutes.
What are you doing here?
Didn't your cousins tell you? I'm your fiancé.
I tried to run away from him, but he grabbed my arm. He told me he was sorry, and if he knew who I was, he would have treated me better.
You don't get it, do you? I'm under a lot of pressure from my parents to marry someone wealthy.
I was not hearing it. At first, at least. My wounds were fresh from the breakup, but he didn't make it easy to reject him.
I brought you a present, my turtle dove.
Is that?
Of course. A baby elephant.
A baby elephant wasn't even the most extravagant gift he gave me. He bought me a private Justin Bieber concert, a solid gold statue of instant noodles, and my very own village. I felt bad, but the whole time he was courting me, I was spamming Adam's phone. I left him about 1,000 messages, and he didn't respond to me on anything. It was time I moved on. If I wanted my inheritance, well, there are worse guys I could be in an arranged marriage with.
Will you marry me?
Yes. Our wedding was not a private affair. Every TV network, newspaper, and billboard in town had a story about my wedding. It was all happening less than a week after the official proposal. It really was a fairy tale wedding. I should have been happy, right? When everyone saw me walking down the aisle, they made comments about my happy tears. In reality, I was crying because I was devastated.
You look stunning, Stephanie. I love you.
I guess I'll learn to love you. Right when we were about to say I do and lean in for a kiss, the unthinkable happened.
Stop the wedding. You?
Oh, Adam. He ran up and kissed me while we were on live TV. Eric and all my cousins positively fainted.
Look, I'm sorry.
Shut up and kiss me again. There was a wedding that day, but it wasn't between an heiress and a spoiled brat. It was between